Hi, and welcome to Robert's DIY Western United States Helper Tour. My goal is to help people on the western half of the United States. If you're in the Mountain Time Zone or the Pacific Time Zone, contact me to see if I can help you with your DIY needs. Now today in Yucca Valley, California, trying not to get a ticket coming out of the hotel parking lot. Going up the hill to bolt that head on today. First order of the day, bolting the head in. Had to reach back there and get this corner screw started while we lowered the bolt in because it almost hits that EGR port. Then had to mount the thermostat housing in because it wouldn't drop in place with that attached. I was lowering the bolts in after lubricating them, and a weird thing happened. One of the head bolts wouldn't go in these center two holes. I had to put it in another hole, but another head bolt did fit. So some of the Victorine's head bolts are extremely tight in some of the holes. Don't know why some of the holes are bigger than others. It makes no sense to me. And why some of the head bolts are different sizes. That makes no sense. But nonetheless, we did get all 12 slid in. Next on order, I'm going to start the two screws on the back of the water pipe, get that started, and then we're going to crank these head bolts in and torque them down. Welcome to California. Just felt an earthquake, probably because I was successful in getting those coolant hose bolts in there. And now we're snugging down the head bolts and about to put the torque to them. Alright, well, we believe we have everything in except for the serpentine belt, this wheel, and this splash guard. On this 94 model, you got your PCV hose that comes off of the PTC valve. It comes up here and connects under here to this tube that wraps across the engine. And then that tube dumps over there and hits that line, which goes to the vacuum tree. So you do not have a port on this passenger side of the intake manifold. Now we believe everything is set so that we can start it. He had a lot of stuff off that I don't normally take off, throttle bodies and all that stuff, so he's going to go ahead and hit the starter, and we're going to watch the timing belt, and let's see if he fires up. And she fires up. You can hear the lifters a little bit. The timing belt seems to be tracking off of this idler over here. Not sure why that's happening. It's hanging off that idler about 1/4 of an inch. We need to figure out what's going on there. It's tracking on the edge of these cams here. Just barely on the edge of the cam, but it is tracking off of that idler. So I'm going to have to check that out and maybe replace that. And she's idling. Pulled that idler. It seemed like there was some fresh oil on there. And I looked under here, and it seems like this cam seal is hanging out a little bit. So I'm going to try to push that back in a little bit. If not, I'll pull this sprocket off and push it back. Well, we pulled this idler because the timing belt's clearly tracking off of it. And it appears to be a INA. But when we flip it over, we can't see any INA markings on the back. So it's possible that this is one of the infamous counterfeit INA rollers. So we're going to put the one on there that he purchased from IPD. It is not INA. That's why we was not trying to use it. So we'll see if it helps the timing belt track better. Also, this is the reason why I double checked that cam seal, because there was oil on the back of this roller, which to me indicates a leak. And that's when I seen the seal hanging out on the bottom a little bit. I pressed it in. We'll see if that holds it. Having a hard time reading it, mainly because I'm old, but I think that thing says NTN. So we're going to put this one on, see if it tracks straight, and go from there. Got the replacement roller in, but I got a little bit of slack in here. I believe that's going to put my crank off about 1/2. And with the head issues we have, we don't need to be 1/2 off. So I'm going to pull the top of this cover off, reset this belt so that it's a tooth over on this intake side, and then install the tensioner. Well, we might be off a tooth. See what's going on down here on the cranks. Unless your marks are off down there. Checking the crank mark one more time. I'll put the cams on. Trying to see where the crank is. Alright, so we got the tensioner on. Getting ready to fire up. Did you say you started the car?
No.
Okay. Getting ready to fire up, see how everything is going. We're going to go ahead and put the serpentine belt on. Well, you want to start it up and see if it's,
okay.
Make sure it's tracking right and not leaking any oil. Here we go.
Give it a word.
Go ahead. Okay, the belt is tracking better. It's only about 1/8 of an inch off instead of 1/4 of an inch off. Alright, you can go ahead and shut it down. Alright, that still stayed in. Cool. Alright, so we're going to reroute this belt and put this thing on here. Well, the car is running. We redid the compression test. His compression numbers on his new compression gauge was between 90 and 100. Checked them dry and wet. I told him his numbers should jump when he went wet, and they didn't. Therefore, I suspected that the gauge was faulty. So when I checked it with my gauge, his numbers are between 150 and 170. So he's got a good strong engine, and it was hunting on the idle. After looking around a little bit, I noticed that this turbo hose here is torn open. So that's going to be a massive boost leak, a real reason for a car to have a hunting idle, and he's got to get that replaced. So that's probably his issue. We're putting it back together and calling it a night. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.